I try to stay away from discussing this particular conflict, not only because the media talks about it nonstop, but it's also due to the fact that people have different opinions on it based on their geographical reasons. And it's understandably so. Like, if you're in Romania, it's obvious that you're going to be hashtag concerned if there's a conflict literally across the border. And just like Russia claims it doesn't want NATO to neighbor its territory, so too does Romania not want to have Russia neighbor our territory. And because of that, the sentiment here is overwhelmingly positive towards Ukraine. However, I do understand that despite what the mainstream media is claiming and what social media is selectively pushing using its algorithm, people in the West, especially in the United States, are not very happy about this particular conflict. It's very difficult to explain to the average American who goes to buy gas and he looks at the pump robbing him blind, noticing the hashtag Putin's gas hikes. It's difficult to ask that particular American to support a conflict that is miles away from him. So because of that, tensions are high on the internet, where some people are Team Ukraine, other people are Team Russia, and there's other people who just want the conflict to stop. Of course, the situation is far more complex than that. I could actually spend several hours explaining why Americans should care about this conflict and why you should be Team Ukraine, but this is not that particular video. It's just one of the reasons that I tend to avoid talking about this complex issue. But the most important reason is that it's very difficult to know what's going on. As usual, throughout human history, when there is a military conflict, there's also a fog of war, which means that the news coming out is not from quote-unquote independent, objective, verifiable sources. Both sides of the conflict try to select only the positive news that are going to bring morale to their troops. So the media, during times of conflict, serves an important role in the battlefield. They're trying to motivate and gather support, not just for the troops that are fighting, but for the population back home. So because of that, it's very difficult to know what's going on. But every now and then, you do notice certain objective things, like having the Ukrainian army next to a city that was previously under Russian control, displaying a flag, right? Like, that shows that there are Ukrainian troops next to that city and that the Ukrainians have managed to make significant advancements. And this is what seems to have been happening recently. Ukraine has made what the media calls lightning advances, pushing back the Russian army. And what's really interesting is that they managed to take Kharkiv. And Kharkiv is a very important city, not just for its strategic location, but also because there is, as far as I know, ample supplies of gas underneath it, which I'm pretty sure the European Union will be interested in purchasing once the conflict is over. So the fact that the Russians left Kharkiv is very bizarre, because the Russians are claiming that this is a strategic retreat, right? So exactly what I said about the fog of war. One side is saying that they're making lightning advances. The other side is saying, no, we're just strategically retreating. Now, the way I interpret the news is, because obviously you can't fact check it, like you can't go on the ground and see which one of the two sides has a point. The way I interpret it is we're going to have to wait and see a little bit. So if in 1 week the Ukrainians are going to face massive resistance, well, then it means that, yeah, maybe the Russians were strategically retreating. If the Ukrainians manage to continue their advance without being stopped, then it means that they are actually doing this lightning advance, as the press calls it. Still, it is finally a development within the conflict, which managed to stagnate for quite a while, as far as I could tell. And what's also peculiar is that the Ukrainians claim to have captured some high-ranking Russian soldiers. Now, I looked at the pictures. They kind of look similar. You could make that argument, in which case it is a lightning advance. But yeah, only time will tell. What is significant, however, is the capture of this important city, Kharkiv. Like this, if you guys remember, I made a previous video explaining its strategic importance, because after the conflict ends, of course, Europe and Ukraine are going to want to start trading relations, and Ukraine does have gas, just like the Russians, which probably not in the same amount, obviously, but it would still be a cheap alternative to the gas that's coming from Norway, for example. So a lot of people don't understand why the British are going to shiver from the cold this winter, because the British weren't importing gas from Russia, which is absolutely true. The British were taking gas from Norway. The problem is, of course, that Germany, while it was busy crippling its own energy sector and shutting down its own nuclear power plants due to environmentalist policies, was importing gas from Russia en masse through the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, and they wanted to build another. Now, when the conflict started, Germany had to stop the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and the Russians stopped the Nord Stream 1, as far as I know, which means that Germany is now taking gas from Norway. So Norway is now giving to Germany rather than the United Kingdom. So that's why the UK is out of gas. Some may even view it as the European Union punishing Britain for Brexit, because the European Union would say, well, yeah, but like we need to give gas to Germany. It's the engine of the European Union, so we have to prioritize that over the United Kingdom, which is outside the European Union. That can also be an interpretation. Regardless, once the conflict is over, if depending on the territorial situation, like how much part of the land Ukraine manages to hold, if any, if Ukraine manages to, for example, keep everything besides the Donbas area and Crimea, then yeah, it would be a significant country which could supply gas to Europe, not in the same amounts as Russia, but a lot of this energy crisis, if politicians will it, would go down. So as you can see here, according to the media, the Ukrainians are pushing back against the Russian forces, or the Russians are doing the strategic retreat, depending on which side of the conflict you want to believe. Still, this is going to be a major PR victory for Zelensky, which now is going to go and ask for more aid, because he can finally justify where all the billions of dollars that have gone to Ukraine ended up. It's like, look, we managed to push back the Russians, so give us more money. This is what I expect to happen in the near future. Let me know what you guys think, and I will see you in the comment section. Take care.